Hey guys, so I'm back in the woods behind my house today working on a little clearing project. So I've got a little clearing back here that I'm going to actually till up and put a food plot in, and I've got some stumps that I'm pulling out. I had a big tree that went down, crushed a bunch of these smaller trees, so I knocked those off, and now I'm pulling these out. And because I'm going to till this up or drag it, I don't want to just cut the stumps off of the ground. I want to actually get them out so I don't have roots to catch on the disc or drag or whatever I use. So this is actually the third video that I've made pulling stumps. The first one, I pulled one of these small trees by hand with a rope come along. And then in the last video, I actually pulled the rest of these with my tractor, Kubota B2601. And now we're stepping up to the bigger ones, and I'm gonna actually pull these with a winch. So these stumps are, I think the biggest one I'm gonna pull is this one, which is roughly 15 or 16 inches across at the base. There's a honey locust over there that I might take down, which might be a little bit bigger. And then I've got a couple more over here. I think this one is probably like a foot or so at the ground. So what I'm using today, I built this winch mount, which I made a video on. I'll put a link up above for all these other videos, but I wanted a way that I could take my portable winch, which has a, it's mounted on a portable receiver mount, and I wanted a way that I could bring this back into the woods and actually attach it to a tree so I could pull on things back here. So I came up with this design, which is just it's a regular 2.5 inch receiver mount tube. I've got some 1/4 inch plate that I cut for the frame, got welded up, and this is 2x2 tubing that I put on here as wings. So the idea here is that when I put it up on the tree, these wings will basically just self-adjust to the diameter of the tree, and I'm going to strap it on, hang my winch, and I'm hoping that'll give me enough strength that I can pull. So I'm using this is a Badlands ZXR 9000. So theoretically, we can put 9,000 pounds of pull on this. Of course, if you're familiar with winches, you get your maximum pull when your line is all the way out to the last wrap on the drum. And then some of these, I've got to figure out the best way to do this. And some of these, like I was going to use this tree as an anchor, but I'm really close to these stumps, so I won't get near the maximum pull out of that thing if the winch rope is coiled all the way up on the drum. So I need to try to find a tree where I can get it out further and get maximum pull. So I'm going to locate a tree here. I should point out too that what I'm actually doing is creating a 4-to-1 mechanical system here. So I'm using 3 snatch blocks and shackles to get myself additional pull out of this. So theoretically, I'll show you the setup here, but theoretically with 3 snatch blocks I can get 4-to-1, and if I can maximize the pull strength of that winch, I should be able to pull 36,000 pounds, which should be plenty to get these stumps out of the ground. So anyway, let me get this set up and then I'll come back to you. All right, so I'm gonna try this tree here and see if I can reach. So I built this so that I could just use a small, lightweight ratchet strap to get it hung on the tree. Just get it in position until I put the big straps on it and actually tighten everything down. All right, I think about there should be good. So I'm using, these are 2-inch ratchet straps. Working load 3,300 pounds, but they're rated the 10,000 pound braking strength. So with 2 of these, 10,000 pounds, that's a lot more than that winch will pull. All right, got those snugged up pretty good. All right, so there's my setup. Mount, 2 straps, slid into the receiver. Now I'm gonna rig up this stump. I'm actually gonna do, see if I can show you that one right there. That's my target. So I think I've got enough rope and chain to make it that far. So I'll get this thing rigged up and I'll show you the setup. All right, so I got everything hooked up. I'm gonna take a little slack out of the line here and then I'll show you the setup. All right, so had to get a little creative here for my last anchor, but so you saw how I'm hooked up to the tree. The easiest way to explain this, I've mentioned this in my other videos, but it's worth repeating. So when you're using snatch blocks like this, what I do is I envision, you know, obviously we're pulling horizontally here, but what I do is envision that this whole system is hanging. So imagine that my stump back here that I'm pulling on, imagine this thing is hanging from the ceiling. And what I've got is 4 lines that are supporting my object. So I've got 2 lines coming off of this snatch block, and I've got 2 lines coming off of this snatch block. And that's how you determine that it's actually a 4-to-1 system. So you can get to a 4-to-1 with just 3 snatch blocks. So I've obviously got the winch line coming through the first snatch block. I come back, I'm anchored to the tree with this sling. That's a 10,000 pound tree sling with my second snatch block. Come back down here where I'm pulling, and here at this point I had to jump to a cable. This is a 5/16 cable, actually off of this winch originally before I put the synthetic line on there. So it's 65 feet long, so I had to come clear back here, and I've wrapped this around this tree back here, and I threw an old tire around it just to keep from that cable cutting into the tree. So I think that should work okay. So this is where it's really nice to have a remote for the winch so you can stand back, because stuff flies, you don't want to be in the way. So we're gonna step back a little bit here and start pulling on this thing and see what we get. So I've got this. The biggest challenge I have pulling stumps all the time is having them slip off the stump. I took a hatchet and I notched the bottom just a little bit. Those are both 3/8 or 5/16 chains on there, and I've got them slung around themselves, so it's kind of like a cinch chain. So hopefully they won't pull off of there, but if they do, it's no big deal. I'll loosen it up and start over. So, all right, let's start pulling. All right, so we are not pulling. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust these chains up a little bit higher to get some leverage on it. And hopefully I can pop it loose that way, and then I'll go back down. If I can get it popped loose, then I can go back down lower and finish the pull. All right, we'll see if that makes any difference. All right, guys, so this stump has proven to be a little tougher than I expected it to be. This tree was alive up until just a couple of weeks ago, so I'm guessing that the fact that it's basically still green makes it a little bit tougher to pull. Those roots aren't going to break as easy. So what I've done is added another snatch block to the system, and not only that, so I was going to bring the cable back and anchor it to the stump, but I had just enough cable that I actually looped the cable around the back of the stump, which is kind of sort of acting like another snatch block, and coming back and anchoring to my winch tree. So I effectively have like a 6-to-1 going on here now. So I'm hoping that with this setup that I can pop this thing loose. You could probably see from the video before, it was moving. You know, I could probably just get it to move a couple inches. I just can't get it to pop loose. So we'll see with this extra pull if I can get it done. All right, what I'm gonna do, I let off a little tension there because I'm close to it, but I'm gonna put full tension on this, and then I'm just gonna leave it for a couple hours and see if it kind of loosens up a little bit, and then I'll come back and put another pull on it. I'm not sure what else to do at this point. It's really being stubborn. All right, guys, time for an update. So last time I had the camera on was this morning, and it's actually this afternoon now. It's like 4:35 o'clock. So to give you an update, a couple times, let's see, I think 3 different times I've come and pulled on the winch until it basically stalled out. And this third time, yeah, so I did it twice, you know, left a couple hours in between, and now this third time we've got movement. So I'm turning the cameras back on, and I didn't notice this when I was pulling before. I think it was probably just this last pull, but I don't know if you can see, but there's got weird shadows and stuff going on. But this thing's got a huge root ball for a relatively small tree. I'm pulling back like 3 feet, 3.5 feet all the way circumference around this tree. So anyway, I'm gonna pull on it some more here. I think we're about ready to pop this off. I'm sure in not too long, I'm probably going to be losing the chain and the cable slipping off the top of the stump. I'm gonna have to reset, but for now, we're gonna tug on it some more and see if we can get this thing to at least get it to the point where my chain slips off. I knew that was going to happen. Man, this thing is, for about a 12-inch tree, this thing has a huge root ball. This is ridiculous. I don't know what kind of tree this thing was, but man, it is stubborn. So I guess at this point I'm going to reset my chains and everything. I'm going to bring them down low. I'll lose my leverage, but I think I've got the tree loosened up enough that hopefully I can move this thing. Worst case scenario, I might have to actually chain in the opposite direction and pull and kind of break it loose, but I think we'll be able to get it out now. So I'll get everything reset and we'll pull some more and see if we can get it completely out of the ground. All right, I'm re-rigged and time to pull again. Yeah, I figured that'd probably happen. I'll wrap it and try one more time. All right, guys, I'm reset. Here we go, one more time. Well, it is finally out. That thing was stubborn. And that is a huge root ball for a small tree. There is, unfortunately, I think I lost my tape measure because it was in the bucket when I started digging around in that. So my tape measure's buried in dirt here somewhere, but this hole is like 2 foot deep, and that is probably 5 foot across that root ball. So I mean the entire diameter both directions 5 foot. So that's why this thing was so hard to pull. The roots weren't coming loose from the dirt. So I was pulling a ridiculous amount of dirt out of the ground to get this thing to move. So the bad thing is, I think this stump over here, which is the next one to pull that I really want out of there, I think that's the same kind of tree. And and it's not as tall, so I'm not going to have as much leverage to pull on that one. So that could be interesting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this thing, try to get my chains off of here, at least get it out of the hole, and I guess I'm just going to kind of roll it around with the tractor and dislodge some of that dirt. It'll weigh probably a third as much if I can get some of that dirt off of there. And then I think for this next one, because it's going to be similar, what I may do is try to dig around the base of it a little bit with the tractor and at least try to loosen up some of those roots. I don't know how successful I'll be doing that, but I think I'm going to try that. But man, that baby came out a lot harder than I anticipated. But at least it's out. So I did find my tape measure, and that thing was actually 6 foot in diameter. It was actually a little bit over 6 foot in diameter of dirt. So I don't know how much black, damp topsoil weighs if it's 6 foot wide and 2.5 foot thick, but it's heavy. I got a lot of it knocked off of there to a reasonable amount anyway. The good news is that my custom winch mount worked perfectly. Really happy with that. I'm not really sure how I would have gotten this done without that thing. So worked great. Time to pack it up for tonight. Tomorrow I'll be back and work on pulling a couple more. All right, so we're back again, day 2, and I'm set up on the same tree, which puts me further away from this next stump that I'm going to pull. So I'm only, with the cable and line that I have, I'm only able to get to a 4-to-1 ratio here. As you saw, I did some work and actually dug up some of the roots on the back side of this thing, so that has to help. The bad thing is the stump isn't as tall, so I don't have as much leverage to work with, and it's quite a bit bigger in diameter. So I'm going to see how this goes. We're going to put a pull on it. The way I've got this rigged up right now, I only have, I've only got about maybe 4 feet here before the end of my line comes up and hits the first snatch block. So I've got very little pull, and I don't even know if this is going to work. That might just be enough to take slack out of the line. So I may have to stop and re-rig this whole thing to get myself to the point where I can get some pull. But we're going to give it a shot here, see what happens. As expected, that one's going to be stubborn too. So what I'm gonna do is, I took slack off the cable just so I could come over here close to the cameras, but I'm going to shut off the cameras. I'm going to torque this thing down, put as much pull on it as I can, and then I'm going to give it an hour or two, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm hopefully the same technique that I used yesterday, where every hour or so I just, I can get another inch or two out of the cable. And by doing so, hopefully sometime in the next few hours I can get this thing loosened up, but that's the only thing I can do for now. So just to give you an idea how much pressure I'm putting on this whole system here, I just came back, it's been about 45 minutes, and I decided to put another pull on it, and something popped, and I found out this is a 5/16 log chain. Popped a link on it. So this heavy duty transport chain is holding up, but this is an old rusty chain, and it's just, it's not heavy duty, it's just basic 5/16, but I'm still surprised I broke that. But I did, so I'm gonna re-rig it and we'll start pulling again. So I was working on trying to get this chain fixed, and I found something that's kind of interesting. So I used to always think this chain was 3/8. Then the other day I was looking at it and I was like, no, that's 5/16. And so what I didn't realize, if you can see that there, but at some point in time somebody's actually put a link in here. So this is mostly, well, about 2/3 of it is a 3/8 log chain, and somebody spliced a 5/16 chunk onto it. So kind of interesting. So I'm just going to cut this link off, go back onto here. It's going to be a lot shorter, but I'll actually be using a 3/8 log chain then. That I won't break. Alright guys, I'm all rigged again. So I got my chain repaired, so now we've got a 3/8 log chain, 5/16 chain, in addition to my 5/16 cable. And I rigged this differently. So as you can see, I added another snatch block. I'm using this tree as an anchor. And so now I am up to a 5-to-1, 2, 4, 5. So hopefully that additional pull will help me get this thing out of the ground. The bad thing is this tree that I'm using as an anchor here, that's only a 1/4 inch chain. I've already broke that once. I broke that when I was pulling stumps with my tractor the other day. But the way that it's in the system, I only got that one shackle coming off of there, so it's like, I don't even know what that math is, but it's like a fifth of the tension probably is on that chain. So hopefully that one will hold up. We'll see. Maybe I'll break it again, but all you can do is try. Okay, we're getting a little bit of movement out of it. I'm going to, just like before, I'm going to go ahead and step back And I'm going to put tension on it, and I'm going to come back in an hour and put another tug on it and see if it moves. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I wanted to show you what I'm working on here. Not what I'm working on, you know what I'm working on, but the status of this whole situation. So this looks like it's under a lot of tension, but I actually let off on the winch a little bit here just now. But you can see that I have been digging and digging and digging around this thing, trying to get around this stump, and I still haven't been able to budge it. I mean, I'm completely going around 3/4 of it. I even poked around the front of it to try to loosen up some of those front roots. Everything I can see, anything of any size, has been broken loose. So now I just went and I got my pallet forks on my tractor, and I've been jamming those forks underneath the stump, trying to loosen up the dirt underneath. And just now when I was on the other side, I kept hitting something hard, and I just basically kept hitting and hitting it. And I think I might have popped something loose under there. So I don't know if there's a giant taproot under there or what, but I mean, if you look at that thing, you would think that would just pull right out of the ground. And I have got thousands and thousands of pounds of tension on that stump, and it still doesn't want to come out. Tens of thousands of pounds, and it doesn't want to come out. So I'm hoping that now, after jamming that thing with the pallet forks, that maybe I've got it loosened up enough. So I'm going to set the camera up again, and we're going to give it one more try. I shouldn't say one more try, because I am not going to give up on this thing. It's going to come out of the ground one way or another. All right, before those chains slip off the top, which I know is going to happen any second now, I'm going to go ahead and re-rig this so everything doesn't go flying apart on me. All right, I hope this is it. All right, I'm gonna have to re-rig this and get it up over the top of those roots so I can get it popped all the way out, but at least the tractor will hold it from falling back in the hole. All right, it's finally time for the final pull. Well guys, it wasn't easy, but it is out. Look at this giant cavern that I left behind. Jeez. So there are a couple kind of deeper tap roots there, but so this thing is laying almost upside down. As you can see, I knocked most of the dirt off of it, which I'm convinced that the reason these are so hard is because these are green. I mean, like I said, I just cut these down, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and you can see all these fine roots down here. And I measured, and it's almost hard to believe, but from where this thing was flush with the ground, these roots are coming out 5.5 to 6 feet. All this fine stuff, and the big bulk of them back here is like 4 foot to 5 foot in the ground. And you know, that's just it's not a very big tree. Let's measure here. The diameter at the ground is 1 foot. So I think, you know, this Iowa topsoil, we have no sand in our soil here. It's just black dirt, especially down here in this ravine bottom. And those roots just, you know, they just keep on going down. It's perfect ground for those trees to grow in, and those little suckers hold tight. Even when I had all these big ones were all busted off, and I could not break free those small ones until the very end. So I thought, honestly, until I broke that chain, I was starting to think that my winch was not putting out the kind of pulling power that it should. But when I broke that chain, it made me believe that the winch is performing like it should. And my portable mount that I built, and this thing was flawless. Worked perfect. I got some scuff on my tree, just, you know, from pulling there, and I did break a little bit of bark, but not very bad. I think that tree will be fine. And what I maybe should have done is thrown like a chunk of tire around the base of that tree just to protect it a little bit. Had I known how much I was going to be tugging and pulling, I probably would have done something to protect that tree a little. But man, oh man, what a battle. So next, I'm done for the day. It's hot. Next is gonna be that thorny locust. But on this one, I'm gonna cut that sucker off high. I'm gonna cut it like 5-6 feet above the ground, so I've got lots of leverage to pull on it. Hopefully that won't be so bad. I'm sure if I can get some leverage on it, it'll make all the difference in the world. But hey, that's it for today. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next video.